So we're looking at my Xbox Series controller today because I found out that iFixit's website does not actually have a walkthrough on how to take these things apart. So I sort of tinkered around and figured out how to get it apart myself. We're recording on my webcam, which isn't going to be the greatest quality, so where appropriate I will try to take higher resolution photos with my phone and then overlay those. But basically we're going to take this apart. We're not going to take everything completely apart. I mainly just want to show you guys how to get the shell off of it. And there's a couple of things that I learned about the Xbox Series controller on the inside that I want to point out to you guys if you decide to take yours apart. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out my battery. Now this is not a Microsoft battery. This is a, I forget what, a PowerA brand rechargeable battery for the Xbox controllers. And under the battery, you can see I've already done so, but in the label in the center of it, you'll see there's a little punch out, or there's a screw under the label that you'll need to poke a hole in the label to get to, but we'll get to that in a minute. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove these grips on the outside of the controller here. So start up by the trigger, and you can see up close to here there's a little gap where you can sort of get your finger started, and what will happen is this grip will sort of pull in this direction away from the controller. So we're going to kind of get it started. You see I've got it lifted up a little bit there, and once you've got it lifted up, now you may need to use a spudger, a butter knife, or just any kind of blunt edge. If you've never done this to your controller before, they may be stuck on there pretty good. But basically once you get it started, just kind of pull. There we go. And you can see all it is, it's just several of these little locking tabs that interface with slots in the controller undershell here. Alright, we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Start up by the trigger, and I've kind of, there we go, worked a little loose because I cleaned them today. So we're going to set these off to the side. Now we have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. These are Security Torx T8. You've got a couple of options. If you can either get a T8 Security Torx bit, or you can try to wedge a small flathead screwdriver in there between the points and either unscrew it or maybe snap the little stem out of the center of it, and then you can either just use a regular T8 Torx or that same flathead screwdriver to go ahead and back them out. I'm pretty sure I've broke the stem out of all of these, so we're just going to use my regular T8 Torx here and take these screws out. I can feel it trying to push apart in my hand here. Okay, so there's all the screws out. After that, this front plate will just lift off, set to the side, and the joystick caps will also just lift off. You can set those to the side in case you need to like blow these out or clean them out or anything. You flip it over, this back shell will lift off. It's got a couple little places where it may catch, but here's all the important stuff. You've got your rumble motors, you've got your triggers, you've got your shoulder buttons, you've got your face buttons, and you'll notice that you've got 2 PCBs here. One of these PCBs does most of the face buttons, the D-pad, start, select, things of that nature. This one does your 2 joysticks, and it also does the B button, and that's one of the things I wanted to show you real quick here. So we've got some little Torx. These are just regular Torx. They may also be T8. Let me check and see. I don't think they are. They look smaller. Yeah, they're smaller than that. So let's just take our little flathead, see if we can wedge it in there. So we've got a screw here and here, and I believe that was it, just those 2 screws. And when you take this off, there's one thing you need to be careful of. The headphone jack here is not soldered. It's just set in a slot and sandwiched between these 2 PCBs. So when you take this one out and lift it up, that may dislodge because it's not actually soldered to the board that it communicates with. And let's see if we can get this to lift up here. There we go. We got it moving. Okay. So now, here's what I was talking about with the headphone jack. This fell out when I took it apart earlier, and I had no earthly clue what in the world this was until I looked at the end of it and I said, okay, that's the headphone jack. And you've got to look, and there's pads on the underside of this joystick PCB that these pins on the one side interface with. And you just have to make sure that you lay this back in here correctly, so that when you place that PCB back down, it will sandwich this the way it's supposed to be. So we'll set that to the side, and I might have to pull this one rumble motor out. Now these rumble motors have little locking tabs that go over the little center point of the motor, so you may have to give them a little bit of an ugga to get them to come out. You may even want to take and pry out on this little tab to give it some room to move. There we go. Okay, got that one out. That's the only one I need to take out right now, because here's the other thing I wanted to show you. There's your B button right there. The AX and Y buttons all interface with this front PCB that's screwed directly into the front face of the controller. The B button, however, interfaces with the joystick PCB and is sort of notched in with the outside edge of the controller. So its little pad is on the front side of this PCB. So if you're taking this apart and you put it back together, be careful that this rubber dome gets put back the way that it came apart, and that it's also clean, because if you put it back together and your B button feels a little bit mushy or a little bit less responsive, you've probably fouled something up there. So let's go ahead and take our headphone jack and get it placed in here correctly so that these pins align with those pads, and there's a little plastic nub right on the edge of this headphone jack that will go into a hole in the underside of this PCB, but that hole is not visible from this side because you've got an extra little daughter board attached here. But you want to lay it just the way it came out and pulled all the way out to the edge as far as it'll come. It's notched so it won't slide out too far. And then we'll take this second PCB and we'll start to position it. And there's a couple things you need to watch for when repositioning this. There's 2 alignment posts, one on either side, and there's a small little plug in the middle that this PCB will plug into to connect the 2 PCBs to one another. So you need to align that plug and the 2 alignment posts on either end. We got our alignment post. We got a little bit of a rock in the middle, so we're just going to kind of go pop. There we go. Plug that in. I'm going to rotate my rumble motor slightly so that the wire is not facing out toward the 2 pieces are going to pinch together. And this same tab that we had to pry out to get it to come loose, you may have to pry out on that to get it to go back in. There we go. Alright. Seat that down in its little slot good. The wires are toward the middle. This is still plugged in good. Alright, now let's put our 2 little mounting screws back through this PCB. Alright, now before we go any further, now might be a good time to flip it over. Make sure all your face buttons feel okay. Now we need to take and put our joystick caps back on. They are keyed, so if they don't want to go, just kind of twist them around until they do. And there we go. Put our faceplate back on, and this is important because this is what the other side screws into. Put our faceplate back on. We flip it over. Now before we start putting the back side back on, you want to make sure that these black wires on either side that go to this daughter board for the joysticks are not laying over here where the pieces might pinch them. Now as you put the back piece on, you got your 2 battery terminals right here. You want to make sure that those battery terminals go through this slot so that they come up inside the battery compartment of the back piece, because if you don't, they'll get in the one, you won't be able to use your battery, and 2, it'll get in the way of the trigger. And you just want to watch while you're putting this together that you're not pinching any wires, your battery contacts are coming through okay. And then once you sort of get everything lined up, you kind of squeeze it a little bit. It's going to want to spring back a little bit like it did when it came apart. That's okay. Your gauge is going to be on the side here. You can see where these little screw mounts attach to these little posts. If you've got flush contact on both sides, then it is all the way on. So go ahead and just kind of squeeze it together. Make sure your triggers actuate and your shoulder buttons actuate just fine. And we're going to start with the center screw. So now we've got all the screws back in. Now we just take these guys and they just pop right back on the same way they came off. And it's kind of hard to mess these up because they're contoured for the side they're supposed to go on, and the tabs pretty well line up. So just put it in place roughly and just squeeze. Make sure all your buttons still feel alright. Put our battery back in. And there we go. So that is how you get inside of your Xbox Series controller. Like I said, watch out for your B button pad because it's the only one that's on its own little thing that doesn't interface with the front main board. And watch out for the headphone jack because it's not even soldered into place. It just sits in here and it's sort of sandwiched into position once the two boards come together.